Dealing with legacy code is a lot about your refactoring skills. But that's not what today's session is about. Refactoring is also an essential part of new code development with test-driven development. You know the cycle goes red, green, refactor, and you can't leave out the refactoring step. In general, TDD has a big effect on the design of your code, and a lot of your design work actually happens in this refactoring step. Kent Beck puts it like this: make the change easy. Warning, this may be hard. Then make the easy change. Hi, I'm Emily Bache. I'm a software developer and creator of Sandman Coaching. Welcome to my channel. This video is sponsored by Tuple, who make an app for remote pair and ensemble programming for both Mac OS and Windows. And I'd like to show you just how smooth it is. So I'm going to call up my friend Jack to help me with this bit of code. Hi, Jack. So I can just share my screen with one click, and then he can look at the code and help me out. Yeah, I spotted something he wants to change there. And Jack can just dive right in and start editing in my machine on my code. And we can collaborate really well. So do check it out. Go to their website. There's a link in the show notes. In today's demo, I'm going to use the popular exercise FizzBuzz, but with a twist. I'm starting from a working solution, and then I'm using refactoring techniques to transform the design. Of course, you may not be using the same programming language as me, so try not to dwell on the details of the syntax. Look at the big picture. I start with a basic design, then I transform it into something more sophisticated and flexible in small, safe steps. I've got some code here that's an implementation of FizzBuzz, which is a very popular kata. And you can see that it works. It prints out the numbers up to 100, replacing the multiples of 3 with fizz and the multiples of 5 with buzz. So if I just look at the implementation here, this print method is just printing stuff, and all the logic is in this convert method here. So this implementation is not very complex, and it's really just going to work for fizz and buzz, which is fine. That's all I need. I developed it using test-driven development, so there are a bunch of test cases for this calculation logic. And these tests, they're not completely comprehensive, but they cover the functionality enough that I feel confident that if these tests fail, I've broken something. And if they don't fail, then hopefully it works, or probably works. So anyway, what's happened now is that I'm going to need to refactor this code because there are some new requirements. So multiples of 7 need to be whiz and multiples 11 bang. And I didn't know about these requirements when I first developed this code. So it doesn't support them, and it doesn't look very straightforward to just add this functionality here at the moment. So what I'm going to do is a preparatory refactoring to transform the design into one where it's easy to add additional factors like whiz and bang. So the first thing I want to do in this preparatory refactoring is change from multiple returns to a single return. So I'm introducing this results variable, and then I'm just going to, check if I didn't assign anything to it, then I'll do what I did before, otherwise I'll return it. So that bit of code doesn't do anything. I'm just introducing this new result variable. So my tests are still passing just the same as before. So, but now there's an opportunity to start assigning to this result. Like in the case when it divides by 5, I assign it to, I append buzz to the result. And that's, everything's still working because I'm just throwing that away actually. But I can do the same thing here, assign or append fizz to my result. So I'm moving to instead of returning straight away, I want to be appending to this variable. So now those return statements are redundant. Hopefully it's going to use my new result variable instead, and everything's the same as before. And bonus, I don't need to check for 15 explicitly because I'm just going to be appending fizz and buzz together in the case when it divides by both. Except I've made a mistake, and of course I've got them in the wrong order. So I'm expecting fizz buzz and I'm getting buzz fizz. So I'm just, I need to be aware of the order that I check my factors in and do the smallest one first. So just reordering those statements, and that should fix the problem. Excellent. So now I'm feeling that this is a little bit more flexible, this design, and adding whiz and bang looks much easier now. It's just, actually I could add 2 more if statements for that at this point. But I think I can do even better. I'm not very happy about a design with 4 if statements. I'm going to carry on refactoring a bit because I think that another abstraction here for this concept of a factor would help. So I'm going to start by just introducing some variables for the things that vary. So for each factor, it's got 2 elements. It's got the actual number to divide by, and then it's also got the string to append. So I'm just extracting these all as new variables, just moving the declarations of these variables up before the if statements so that I can start to work with them. Okay, so again, this is just pure refactoring, just introducing variables, and my tests are still running. But now I can start to introduce this domain concept. So if I have a new factor 1, and it's going to be a new class, which I'm calling factor, and it's going to combine these 2 elements, the number and the string. And that class doesn't exist, so let's go and create it. I'm going to create it as a record, which is a very lightweight class in Java. It's just a bit more convenient syntax for something that's just basically holding 2 data members, the factor to divide by and the name to call it.
Are you enjoying the session? Please remember to subscribe to my channel and like the video. The Salman Society is the organisation that I founded for technical coaches, and you could get help and advice. So do sign up for our newsletter on the website or come along to one of our free events. Salman Coaching, growing excellence in coding together.
So now I've got this factor class, I can create a similar one for Buzz, and then when I've got these 2 factor classes, you can see where I'm going with this. There's going to be a whiz factor and a bang factor in a moment. But first, let's start to use this new factor here. So it's going to be number divided by factor1.factor, and then I append factor1.name. So I could do this again for the Buzz factor in the same way, but I'm not going to for a moment, because actually looking at this, what I want is to roll up loop. I want to loop over a list of factors. And that first if statement there is almost going to be the contents of that loop. So let me work on that for a little bit. Just check I haven't broken anything. No, I've managed to get my new factor working here. Okay, so I talked about this list that I want. I want a list of all my factors. Rather than a string of if statements, I'm going to roll them up into a loop over a list of factor objects, basically. So if I just make a list with 1 element and loop over it, that's the simplest way to introduce a loop. Just go from 1 to many of 1, and then to many later on. But let's just start with a loop that's only going to go around once, and it's going to do this if statement for the fizz factor. So factor 1 is the first element in the list, so let's use the loop variable. Factor there. And now that is a refactoring. It's doing the same as before because this loop only goes around once. But now, of course, if I extend my list with an additional element for the Buzz factor, I don't need this other if statement. So let's just see, was I successful? That was the smallest step I could think of to go from 1, many of 1, now to many. Yes, test working. Okay, so this is good. I'm just going to inline these things now because I don't need them as separate variables. I'm only referring to them via their factor, and I think it reads a little bit better to put them inline there in the constructor. So at this point, the code is looking pretty good. I'm actually going to inline these in the list as well. So I get rid of those factor 1 and factor 2 names, which didn't mean much. Yeah. So at this point, I've got some code which should be pretty flexible to add whiz and bang with just 2 more lines of code. So I'm liking the look of that. The next step now then is to use test-driven development to add the new features for whiz and bang. But I think I'm going to leave that as an exercise. I think it's pretty clear how to do that. And this code is all working. And that was a preparatory refactoring.
Great stuff. So when you're implementing a new feature in your production code today, see if you can find an opportunity to make the change easy and then make the easy change. Happy coding.